Every so often, I make a video on the top side hustles. I don't know if people watching will actually try them, but I do know everyone loves to see different ways to make money, which is why I love making these side hustle videos. In today's video, I want to tell you about the top side hustles during lockdown, how they got traffic, how much money they're making, and what they were. As well as that, I also want to tell you, do they even exist anymore? Have they closed down now that things have started to go back to normal? And as well as that, I want to tell you about the top side hustles that boomed during lockdown in my area specifically. Firstly, a crazy statistic that I saw from 118 Money, almost 68% of employed UK adults have a side hustle as well as their main job. That to me is absolutely crazy, and it says a lot to how much people are getting paid in comparison to how much they need to get by. Now, upon further research, we were actually able to find out the top 10 side hustles during lockdown and exactly how much they were making. These are of course averages, but let's go through them. You've got podcasting at number 1, which on average was bringing in £954 a month or £11,448 a year. You've got selling handmade candles, super random, £670 a month or £8,040 a year. Renting out a flat or a space of some sort was £657 a month or £7,884 a year. Blogging brought in £646 a month or £7,752 a year. Selling soft furniture brought in £616 a month or £7,392 a year. Selling handmade clothes or accessories brought in £520 of extra money every single month or £6,336 a year. Selling handmade soaps, it does not get more random than that, at £525 a month or £6,300 a year. Writing ebooks brought in £517 a month or £6,204 a year. Selling handmade food or drink products brought in £485 a month or £5,820 a year. And finally, investing brought in £451 a month or £5,412 a year. These are all really interesting side hustles that anyone can really get into. Some of them, of course, didn't really feel like side hustles, like renting out a flat or writing ebooks. After doing all of this research, I actually started speaking to my friend, my co-host on my podcast, and it was really interesting, this conversation I was having, because I was learning so many different things that I did which are actually quite bad and I want to kind of change. And it was all about how side hustles can be quite toxic, and this whole side hustle culture is actually not such a good thing. And what is a good side hustle, and what should a side hustle actually be? Because it was such an interesting conversation, we actually decided to record a full podcast episode on this topic specifically, on side hustles, side hustle culture, and burnout, and how you know if you are potentially burnt out and you need a break.
Welcome to another episode of the Young, Dumb and Broke podcast. This episode is all about hustle culture, burnout, and why Shimmy needs to rethink his entire life. Do you ever feel burnt out?
Do I feel burnt out? To be honest, I have absolutely no idea. I mean, what is the feeling of burnt out? That's the question. So yes, I think I feel burnt out a lot more than I actually am when we look at the true definition of what burnt out is. But at the end of the day, have I ever had to be at a point where I'm like, I cannot work anymore? Like how when you were burnt out, when you were really burnt out. So if you're interested in listening a bit more, then click the link in the description to go and check out our podcast. If you haven't heard of our podcast, it's the Young, Dumb and Broke podcast. We talk about things in the topics of health, wealth, and relationships, and it's a really, really good podcast. And if you have heard the podcast, then head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. It will mean the world, and it will help us actually become the #1 business podcast, which of course we want. Even though that just seems a bit crazy, we still want it. Now, one of the main ways to drive traffic to your side hustle is social media. And if you're not focusing on social media when it comes to your side hustle, then what are you doing to get traffic? I mean, yes, you have SEO and email marketing and, just the generic cold calling stuff and guerrilla marketing, like going around leaving flyers and stuff. But really, we all know it's all about about social media. And over lockdown, I mean, you could just see there were Instagram pages popping up every second with a new business, a new food business, a new beauty business, a new art business every 5 minutes. One company that I found, which really stood out to me, was called FizzPop. Now they grew to 12,000 or over 12,000 followers on Instagram, and their business is creating luxury balloon and flower arrangements for different events. Now, I mean, that is the most random thing I've ever heard of in my life. Like, really luxury things, I mean, you can see from these pictures, but really cool things. And they proper blew up. And it just goes to show that whatever your side hustle is, there is someone out there who wants it. And these people base their side hustle on what they love to do. And that is what a side hustle should be based on. A side hustle shouldn't be based on how much money can I make and how can I make so much money right now. It should be based on something you love to do that you want to spend a bit of extra time on and potentially monetize. Now, let me tell you the lockdown side hustles which absolutely blew up in my area specifically. You have art-related side hustles, just like my wife's side hustle, where she creates really cool ink art. I mean, you can see here, it's really, really cool. And by the way, if you haven't given her a follow, go and check out her stuff, because it's pretty good stuff. But basically, she started this business and it kind of got a bit bigger over lockdown, and now it's gotten to the point where she's actually left her job and she's gone and done this pretty much full time, which I just think is so, so cool, because for her, this is a passion project that she's now turned into a job. And that is how a side hustle should stem, right? It should stem from someone who absolutely loves to do something and they turn that into their side hustle. Another huge one was food. Food took over in my area. You had people making waffles, people making cookies, people making sweet arrangements, and then you also had people actually selling meals, but from their kitchen. Because all the restaurants were pretty much closed to actually go and sit down, everyone was getting takeaway. So it didn't really make much of a difference to get a takeaway from a restaurant or to get a takeaway from this new restaurant that's now popped up on Deliveroo, but for all we know, it's just Joe Blogs in his kitchen, right? We have no idea, and that's how so many of these businesses actually came about, just people in their kitchen selling food. And of course you had caterers who also turned from catering into actual restaurant type food, where they would deliver it on Deliveroo or Uber Eats or Just Eat or any of these apps. And these different side hustles completely and utterly blew up. And you can just tell from the Instagram pages, from the comments and the people saying that they ordered and all these different things and the images and the customer pictures and all of those kind of things. It shows how much money and how much impact they actually made. And the last one, which absolutely just took off, was online tutoring. Now this makes perfect sense because a lot of the schools were shut for a long time, and when they weren't shut, a lot of them were actually sending kids home as soon as anyone, got a cough or stubbed their toe. I don't know, the kids were sent home all the time, right? And entire schools were shut down if anyone had COVID. So online tutoring became so flipping popular. And again, you didn't have to have crazy credentials to be able to do this. If you're good at art, math, English, or whatever, you've got good A-levels or you've got good SATs yourself, right? You can 100% tutor someone maybe in primary school, or if you do have qualifications, maybe someone in high school, or if you've been to university and you studied English or history, right? You could 100% tutor someone in GCSEs or even A-levels or SATs in America, right? Or I don't know what the one after that is in America, but whatever. You could 100% start tutoring them and make a whole bunch of money. Now, I think with tutoring, it didn't end when people started going back to school, because kids realized they're learning a lot more with tutoring because it's one-on-one, and you do learn a lot more one-on-one. So that's the type of business which didn't only take off then, but it continued to grow and grow and grow. And you can actually see that it's growing like crazy. The saddest part of all of this, and this is what a big part of the podcast was about, was that people shut their businesses down even though they were working, even though they loved it, because they went back to work. They went back to their 9-to-5s after furlough was over, or they were just able to go back to work, and they just stopped their side hustle. They didn't want to do both at the same time. And I feel that's such a shame, because they put their heart and soul into it. It's their passion project, and it's actually making money, right? And they could do it for an hour or two a day, or in their spare time every couple of days if they really wanted to. But instead, so many people have just totally shut down their side hustles. And I think a big reason for that is people not realizing how to manage their time, right? And if someone realizes how to manage their time, they may be able to find time to do their 9 to 5 and also run their side hustle, which is their passion project. Don't think because the world is going back to normal, hopefully, that the side hustle culture is over and it's not possible anymore. If you want to get involved with a side hustle and you want to do something that you absolutely love in your spare time, then 100% go for it. There is no bad time to start your side hustle. Just start it today, or at least, start writing about it, start researching it, start finding out how you could actually make it become something real. And finally, I just want to end by saying I really recommend listening to the full podcast if you're interested. We talk all about burnout and learning how to spot if you're about to hit burnout or if you've already hit burnout, and how to avoid burnout, because burnout is really bad and it can be really detrimental for your business, for your work, for so many different things, for your personal life. You could have anxiety, panic attacks, all these different things, and it's really important that everyone knows how to deal with burnout before it actually happens. So I really recommend listening to that podcast. The link will be in the description, so definitely go and check that out. Thank you so much for watching, and I just want to say this video was inspired by that podcast, and not only that podcast, it was inspired by all the people who decided to go out there during lockdown and start their side hustles. It's fascinating, and it was just so nice to see so many of my friends start their side hustles. Like my wife start her side hustle, and well, she already had it started, but to kind of focus on it even more, and it was amazing. And I wanted to really share how many people actually created something during lockdown and how they how they made the best of a bad situation. And I just want to say, if you do want to do your side hustle, you go and do it. Let me know in the comments down below what you think your side hustle could or should be.